Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Small Success Podcast. I am not alone. I'm here with Drew Larison, founder and creative director of Larison Media. I'm Pam Downing.
So that is a
I looked
question.
at you like, that's right? I'm Pam Downing. I am the operations and marketing strategist here. And you guys, we are so excited today. I am really proud to bring this topic to you. It's really important as a small business owner, as marketers for us specifically, but honestly, just life in general. I feel like this is a really important
I
topic.
trust you to lead this conversation.
Thanks, Drew. So you guys, today we're talking about trust.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So really specifically trust as far as small business owners are concerned, trust between you and your audience. So I'm going to use that word audience throughout this podcast because I know that as a small business owner, that may mean a lot of different things. That may be a customer, that may be a client, that may be a patient, that may be a patron, whatever you call your people. Today we're calling them your audience and talking about that relationship of trust between you and them and how to build that, why that matters. I don't think I would have to preach this message to anyone, why trust is important. Would you disagree?
It's a key foundation to any type of relationship.
For sure.
A healthy relationship, at least.
That's right. Whether it's employer-employee,
Husband-wife,
friend and friend.
parent, kid.
Yep.
I mean, anything. Yeah.
So thinking specifically as small business owner to customer, small business owner to audience member, I guess I should say, why that's important. And so the first thing I want to talk about is how do you build trust? If you're a small business owner and you're just starting out, you have made 5 sales, you have performed 5 services.
Congrats. You're on your way.
Congrats. You're on your way. How do you build trust? AKA, how do you build this audience of yours? Because not everyone who's a part of your audience is necessarily going to be a client or a customer today, right now. But cultivating your brand and cultivating this relationship of trust is key. The amazing thing is you are living in 2019, 2020, 2021. Whenever you're listening to this podcast, you are living.
Shout out to 2050ers out there.
That's
Glad
right.
to have you.
Welcome.
What's the future like?
We live in a time where you don't have to see people face to face every day to be building that relationship. They don't necessarily have to hear your voice or see your face or they don't have to have any in-person interaction with you. You can legitimately build and cultivate a trusted relationship with people via the internet, specifically via social media. But like I said, that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm. Like all good things.
Like all good things.
Yeah.
If you are in a relationship, did you, if you're in a marriage relationship, did you move in together on your second date?
No.
Right. Did you completely trust each other with your finances by the third date? No. All of those components take time. So, Drew, any tips or tricks for small business owners who want to cultivate trust with people via social media?
The biggest thing to me with trust when it comes to like being a business owner, and this is, I think, to come up with this idea, you have to put yourself like, well, I'm a business owner, correct, but I'm also a consumer. Mm-hmm. So what does it take for me as consumer Drew to trust other brands or other companies with, my money or my choices or anything like that? And the thing that just stands out to me the most is do what you said you were going to do. Mm-hmm. That's it. I mean, like, repeatedly do or give what you say you were going to give. If it's a product, repeatedly give that product, and that product does what you said it was going to do. If it's a service, repeatedly do that service and do what you said that service was going to do. And that's just a really easy, simple way to just build that trust. Because consistency is a big thing. And like you said, that just takes time. Mm-hmm. So on social media, to build trust, people using social media, whether, let's say you're an e-commerce company and you're using, your website and using social media to advertise whatever you're selling on your website, the product better be what it looks like, feels like, sounds like online when it comes to their door. And, if you promise free shipping, it should be free, or 2-day shipping. I mean, all those different things. do what you said you were going to do for
Yeah.
your consumer over time. And that will help build trust and turn them into a curious consumer that's never heard about your brand or your product into a raving fan. And it's just doing what you said you were going to do for that consumer.
Yeah. There is a new place in our little downtown district, and they serve, I want to say drinks. They're non-alcoholic
Smoothies.
drinks. Yeah, smoothies. Thank you.
Now,
The word
alcoholic
is-
smoothies, that's an idea.
Oh, now that's a business. Like all varieties of pina coladas.
Shut the
and
podcast
daiquiris.
down. We're starting
Boom.
adult.
Larison. the Larison
Larison
Lounge.
Libations.
Oh.
I should do marketing.
Okay, so I follow them. I'm speaking as a consumer here. I follow them on social media, liked their stuff. It's great. We went down there the other day as a team, and I asked the owner, hey, what's your favorite smoothie? He told me what it was, said it was amazing, said it was so great. I honestly ordered that one, and in the back of my mind, I thought, we'll see. It was amazing. It really was as great
It
as he
was
said
what
it
he said it was.
Yes. And so honestly, that trust has been established. Guess where Drew and I are walking down to after we record this podcast today?
Larison Libations.
right.
No, wait. No, sorry.
So that's an in-person example of the trust. But had I not had that experience, or say I ordered that smoothie and it was fine, but it wasn't everything he said it was going to be, I don't know if I'd be going back there again today.
Yeah.
It's a very small example,
Yeah.
but that's an example of trust. It happens over time. If you say something, make sure you actually mean it.
Yeah.
Don't talk about how great a new product is if it's actually not that great.
Mm-hmm.
Or be honest, hey, this new product we come out with, this is going to be great for a dad who likes to go fishing. But if you're a single woman who likes to drink coffee, this may not be your thing. So,
Really, it's summing up in my head, listening to you talk, is how to build trust is hitting the expectations of the consumer that you've set for them.
yes.
Like that's it, right? And there's cool. I mean, I think of Zappos. You ever heard of Zappos.com? Yeah, huge shoe and apparel website. They do an unbelievable job of this. And there's Tony Hsieh is the CEO, and he wrote a book about it, and it's called Delivering Happiness. But not only do they consistently provide really great customer service, their shipping is amazing. Every now and then, they just have a process where somebody orders just a pair of shoes, but they want the normal shipping time. Every now and then they'll choose that customer. Maybe it's because this is their 10th pair of shoes they bought, or it's their first time. So the shipping is like, your shoes will be there between 4 and 5 days. Every now and then they'll surprise that customer and give them like next day shipping and not charge them a dime extra for it. So you set that expectation, hey, 4 to 5 days, but you've blown it out of the water. And like sometimes that's a strategy. If we're doing a website for somebody and say, hey, it'll be done in 4 weeks. Hey, we knocked it out in 2. Congratulations. Thank you for being a customer. So
Right.
you go above and beyond those expectations that you set for that consumer. And that helps build trust in a compound way, just over and over and over. You blow their expectations out of the water. So that's what Zappos does, for their consumers. But no matter what small business you have, there's opportunities for you to do that. If you're a restaurant and they order a certain thing, maybe give them the size extra and say, hey, just thank you,
Sure.
for coming in today. Or here's a free appetizer. Or here's, free samples of a new food. Like whatever it is, restaurant wise, you can do that. If you're a home services company, hey, I know you hired me to come fix your dryer, but I also saw one of your doors was a little bit loose. So I just went ahead and fixed that for you today too. Blow their expectations out of the water. And if you dig deep enough, thinking wise of like what your company does, there's so many opportunities where you could one up it and just blow their expectations out of the water for whatever you're doing for that person. There's so many opportunities to do it.
Yeah. And the thing about this is it does involve a little bit of risk. It's a great risk, but it takes you as the business owner making the first move towards your customer. Yeah. So similar to if you're in a new friendship and you're just starting to get to know each other, it takes some vulnerability on the part of one person to share just a little
Somebody's
bit more.
got to take the first step.
Someone's got to take the first step. So as a small business owner, let that be you. It's a very small risk with huge reward and great feedback. So kind of along that same line, using the business owner to audience relationship and making the analogy with a friendship, something that I would love to see more of small business owners do is ask questions of your audience. I see a lot of small businesses doing an awesome job on their own about sharing about themselves and letting their audience see who they are and what they're about and what they make or what service they offer. But I would love to see more of that two-way relationship, if you will. So just like the friendship analogy where you are sharing things back and forth, if it's a good friendship, both parties are genuinely asking questions and they're genuinely curious about each other so that they can get to know each other. And again, this takes time, and the responses may not be exactly what you think they will be, but sharing about yourself, key, great, yes, do it. But also asking questions about your audience.
Yeah, this is such a huge thing, and it's just in my head. This is just communication.
Yeah,
learning to communicate and have open, honest, transparent communication with your audience and your customers, whatever they are, is really key. And I think taking this step is a hard thing, especially we're talking about like maybe just sending out a survey, or something like that. I think it's a hard thing for a lot of small business owners because we're scared of like what we'll actually hear back.
Sure.
However, I mean, it's kind of like anything. I was thinking about this the other day, defining what a successful person does. And in my head, the only thing I can get my mind around, the simplest answer for like, what does a person do that makes them successful? In my head, it's make a decision today that will be so much better for you tomorrow. But it's hard. It's hard having that, and that's go to everything. I mean, like if you're wanting to work out more, I mean, like the day before, setting out your clothes for the gym the next morning is going to help make that decision easier in the morning. Or if you're watching what you're eating, same thing. If you eat this, the scale is going to say something different the next day. So that's in my head. That is like what the number one thing a successful person does is make a decision today that they know is going to be helpful, hitting what they actually want to do tomorrow. And it's the same thing with this. I know it's a hard thing to go to your customers like, so what do you think?
Yeah.
However, it's a hard conversation, but if you do it in a healthy way, I feel like you are going to be so thankful you did that and had that hard conversation tomorrow and like the days ahead. And it's so worth it. But I am acknowledging that's a difficult thing to do, but it's so worth it.
And like the survey, I think there's different types of questions you can ask. And obviously that'll spark different types of feedback that you'll get. But another point, and you can read more about this at literacymedia.com, but another point in this process is to actively listen. So, you have people you enjoy conversations with more than others. Chances are, if you really think about the people who are great conversationalists in your life, it's because they're not just hearing you, they're actively listening to you, and they're following up and they're responding.
Because they actually care.
Right. It's because they care.
They actually care. Yeah. And like, I feel like the power, it's such a power move to go to your customer, ask them for something, ask their opinion about something, how it went, how it's going. And not just ask it to ask it, but ask it with actual care and genuineness behind it. Your customer is going to feel like a rock star.
Right.
And that is going to make trust grow, making that customer feel like, oh my gosh, they actually care. It's not just a scorecard on my table as I'm at a restaurant and like, maybe they'll look at it.
Sure.
I don't know. They actually care and they want my help growing what they're doing. If you do that in the right, genuine, passionate way, the trust will go through the roof because they will feel like they're a part of your organization as a much bigger role than just someone that is a customer.
Yeah. You'll have their loyalty. Yeah. I mean, forever.
Goes in like that path was saying, turning them from just a curious consumer, which I love. I just started saying that. A curious consumer. Like, it's fun. Turning them into a curious consumer to a raving fan.
Yeah.
And someone that will advocate for your business. And that's how you do it.
Yeah. And again, I mean, little caveat here. We're acknowledging that's not always easy.
It's hard.
Because some of the stuff that you'll hear
is not what you want to hear.
Yeah. It may feel like a critique, but genuinely listening because you care, being able to put yourself in their shoes, I mean, that's gold.
Yeah. And prepping yourself for it is a big thing too, because a lot of people will go into it thinking they actually care. but in their heads, it's really just a checklist item.
Sure.
And it's a scary place to be when you're not ready to hear feedback, that you do hear it. If you're not in a place where you're going to be like, you know what, whatever I hear, we're going to accept.
Yeah.
We've got a plan to handle whatever it is afterwards. If you're not there, you don't need to be doing yet, I don't think, because I think you're just going to get to a weird place where actually you could reverse it and maybe lose trust from that
Sure.
that consumer. Because, well, you know, they sat me down and asked me all these questions, but it's been a few months and I'm not seeing any changes.
Yeah.
Do they not actually care?
Right.
You know, so if you're not in that place to take that feedback, get there before you go and move forward with it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we're kind of staying with this friendship analogy because I like the relationship of a friendship, to use that as an example for the business owner to consumer and relationship. So next word of advice when it comes to building trust, and we touched on this a little bit, but it's sharing stories. Share what's happening in your business. Maybe you share something that's kind of silly. Maybe it's a fun thing that your team does. It's kind of a behind the scenes snapshot. Maybe it's a personal story. Maybe you share something from your home life. Maybe you and your family just got a new puppy and you share a little bit of that on your business Facebook page. But sharing those stories, inviting your audience in to what's really happening in your day-to-day life, that creates this feeling of welcome, of we want you here, putting yourself out there, again, taking the first step to show something that is not straight up business. It's maybe not straight up in your industry, but sharing little moments throughout the day that show like, we're people too. We have a candy dish at the office and we fight over what color Starburst is left too. You know, those types of stories.
That's real, by the way.
It's a real
office,
thing.
yeah.
It's not a joke. That cultivates trust. I wouldn't recommend hinging your entire social media strategy around that, but kind of sprinkling in those stories, showcasing who you are as a business, who you are as a business owner, but also sharing about your team and your office environment or your products or little funny or silly or cute things that happen throughout the day. That can create trust. It's just one of those, one of those building blocks that over time will lead to a trusted relationship. And again, think about your experience as a consumer. I know, when I see my dentist's office post, like they had a contest of who could raise the most money for a nonprofit organization. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I love being a part of that. I hadn't been in the office in 3 months, but it made me feel connected. It reinforced to me they are who they say they are. I know they're great people. I know they have a great team. I love that.
Yeah. And I think you said it, I think when you first started talking, you said something about backstage pass or behind the scenes pass. And this is where social media really can play a big role.
Yeah.
And, giving them that type of content, that behind the scenes pass, for example, like our office did that whenever you're listening to this. I don't know when you're listening to this, but it's currently mid-July and that whole trend of show a picture of yourself as like an old person is really popular right now. It's some app, who knows, I've heard it's like Russian Rand, whatever. We'll find out in the future. Maybe you probably know more about that than we do right now. But we took our headshots that we took like company headshots for, and Pam turned them into all of our old folks. And like, we put those online and like, that's perfect content. If our clients are seeing that, maybe, people that aren't our clients are seeing it, but it's like such a cool example of backstage content, behind the scenes content that if they weren't a part of our online audience, they would be missing out on this.
Yeah.
And like, that's a cool thing to be, because that makes them feel special. Once again, like I'm more than just a customer or a client of theirs. I'm seeing this. And if I wasn't a part of their online audience, I would be missing out on it. So I mean, stuff like that is huge. And people, they're very sensitive business owners, like, well, they don't want to see that kind of stuff. They just want to know about business. I'm like, well, they do. Business and what you're doing in business is important. And we share that type of content as well. But like, showing your human side of the people in your business is really important. You guys hear me say it all the time, like humanize your brand, humanize your business, and showing them a cool backstage pass content wise is a really great way to do that. Yeah. And like I said, it makes them feel special, makes them feel I'm more than just a customer of theirs. I'm a part of their little community, and it's a big deal.
It is. And, thinking about engagement, we've talked about this before on another podcast, but when you think about social media and the role that it plays in people's lives, a lot of people just use it as a little escape in their day, or they use it as a way to keep in touch with friends and family. And we either spoke about this on a podcast or I read this somewhere, but when you think about someone's news feed, your small business is competing with their family and friends. Pictures.
It's a Seth Godin quote. It was marketing is nothing but competition for attention.
That's right. Yeah, it's competition for attention, and you're competing with people's family and friends and their other favorite brands. And that's a good thing, but just something to keep in the forefront of your mind when you're thinking about that backstage pass kind of sneak peek into your business. That is interesting to people because your post may be right below a post of a cute puppy video, and it may be right above a post of someone's new baby announcement.
It's a tough competition.
It's puppies and babies.
My goodness.
Have you seen Boss Baby? Oh my gosh.
I have.
Okay, so our last kind of tip when it comes to building trust, and I feel like we've said this in many roundabout ways, but here it is. Be authentic. Be who you are. Play on your strengths. Maybe share your weaknesses. But showing who you are, being honest, having vulnerability. Also, sidebar, we could do an entire podcast on vulnerability and the whole Brene Brown school of thought. That is so important. And vulnerability, there's certain scales. You don't need to air your deepest, darkest secrets on social media, but maybe you do.
Yeah, that was a shout out to the people that do. You don't need to.
Please,
we don't need to see
don't.
that. Yeah.
But maybe it's something as simple as snapping a quick picture of maybe a mistake that you made in the office, but then showing how your team rallied together to fix it, or being authentically you in saying, you know what? I don't like those yellow starbursts. I mean, it could be silly, it could be serious, but being authentic and honest long term is going to cultivate trust, because if you say something, your customer experiences that thing that you said, and that stands true, trust is gained, loyalty is built over time. It's a huge win.
Yeah. People aren't dumb either. I mean, I mean that in the way, like, your audience or the people out there, the consumers on social media, the consumers on whatever platform it is, they're not dumb. They know if something is being shared, they know it's not real. They know you're just trying to sell to them. They know it's not genuine. People aren't dumb, and you have to start recognizing that. The more content is created and the more content is shared throughout our world, the smarter people are getting, and the more they can sniff out the stuff that they know isn't real. But there's also a really interesting trend of, especially younger people, such a huge desire for genuineness, because we live in this Instagram world, right? Where the only thing people see online from people is just this Instagram reality, which is not reality in any way. And there's so many studies right now about just younger people. They're kind of done with that. They don't want to have to live in that world. And it's no different from businesses. I mean, they want realness. They want genuineness. They want transparency from brands more than ever. People are crying for that, for brands to have that. And that's not going to go away. That's going to keep growing more and more. So just be yourself. And I think there's probably just a self-awareness lesson there. Like, be okay with being yourself and figuring out who yourself actually is.
Sure.
Because maybe your brand has been this brand, doing finger quotes, for forever, and you really don't know what your genuine humanized brand is. Figure that out and then try it out there. Put it out there. People are wanting that. People want to see your people, not just your products. People want to see or hear your stories of your people, not just radio copy or text copy from an ad. People are desiring that. Give it to them.
Yeah. And I think for the new small business owner, this is wonderful advice. For the small business owner, maybe you've been in business for a couple decades or more. This can feel new,
scary
and different, and that's okay. Change is the one thing that is constant. So not saying shy away from it. because the way that, TV and radio newspaper operated in this role in the 70s and 80s, it is really different now. And it's okay to feel a little intimidated. It's okay to feel a little scared, but don't let that stop you from doing it. Mm-hmm. Share who you are, be authentic. That will cultivate trust in this digital world that we're living in. People will trust you. You will gain loyalty. And in the long game, that means you're gaining business and you're growing.
It's so funny. I mean, I was just thinking about this whole, like I was talking about, like the Instagram reality. If you think about it, the reason this Instagram reality exists is that people were insecure of their real selves. So they put out this content of something that was just, it stood out so much because it was like not any other type of content. Because everybody else was like, this is who I am. But then this Instagram reality, segment came in and people stood out on social media because they're on private jets. They're standing in front of Lamborghinis. I mean, all the cliche things. But now it's reversing back. Mm-hmm. You know what's standing out? Realness, genuineness. Like the same way that the fakeness used to stand out. There's so much fake. Realness is what's standing out now. Genuine things are standing out. A story about what you're struggling with, and someone reads that and they relate to it, they're going to connect with you so much and build so much freaking trust with you because no one else is talking about it. And you did, and you stood out. They're like, oh my gosh, this person's me. I trust this person immediately. So, I mean, it's so interesting about just the reverse engineering of how everything's going back. And who knows, it'll probably go back to the fake and keep, there's a sliding scale of
pendulum swing.
Yeah, but it's so, realness is so attractive. Genuineness is so attractive to people right now, but people are scared to do it because it used to be unattractive. It's switching.
It's that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it's that making the first move. And as a small business owner, thinking specifically about digital marketing, the vulnerability that we're talking about is maybe sharing a mistake, but then celebrating how you fixed it. It doesn't necessarily mean bearing your soul to the online world.
It's a core value of Larison Media right there, right? Ownership.
Yeah.
Owning up to failures and with a natural desire to repair, and it's a huge thing.
Yeah. So we are so glad you joined us today. Hope you took something away from this discussion about trust.
I'm fired up, Pam. This was a good one. I could talk about this for a while. This was good. And I love it because this is kind of what this podcast was created for. There are so many small business owners probably listening to this. And I said this in one of our first podcasts. This is what I wanted this to be. I wanted this to be a place where small business owners can come and relate and have conversations from people that are similar to them. And that's so healthy, I think. And I'm excited that's what this is right now.
Well, and honestly, I mean, we are living and breathing this trust thing today. I have a meeting this afternoon with a company that drew trust. We were meeting on Monday about an entirely different topic. We need to purchase something for the office. And I said, you know what, I'll just look up somewhere cheap online. And Drew was like, well, wait a minute. Why don't you call my friend so-and-so who owns this business? They do the same thing. They're local. Guess what? He's coming to the office this afternoon to meet with me. That would not have happened had there not been a trusted relationship that has been in place.
But even like the element of like him wanting, that could have happened over email probably, or like,
100%.
But he's like, no, I want to take the next step. Yep. I want to meet you so we can build that relationship and start building that trust. It's awesome. Happening, folks, in the real world.
It's happening in the real world. So glad that you joined us today on the Small Success Podcast. To learn more about this topic of trust, you can check out our blog over at larisonmedia.com. Can't wait to see you next time.